questioning the intelligence of a leading Republican presidential candidate and governor of Texas. Texas Governor Rick Perry being criticized by enemies apparently, reportedly, on both sides of the aisle, including some leading Republicans. Portrayed as a, quote, right place, right time politician who looks the part but isn't so deep. One former Republican governor quoted by Politico as saying he's, quote, like Bush without the brains. Really? Michelle Malkin is a conservative columnist and a Fox News contributor and my guest now. Michelle, there is this big piece in Politico today that talks about, and it's titled, Is Rick Perry Dumb? Saying that the whispers are the same as with George W. Bush. Lightweight, incurious, intellectual, Governor Goodhair, quoting somebody is calling him that, and then using that quote from an unnamed former Republican governor. He's like Bush, only without the brains. And what do you make of it?
Well, my eyes are rolling so high up there, I think they're going to get stuck. This is just one of those standard issue cut and paste attacks on Republicans that you get in late August or every time the election season rolls around. We've seen it with Reagan and George W. Bush, Sarah Palin, Michelle Bachmann, and now it's Rick Perry's turn because obviously he's the front runner. I think a more pertinent question, and of course you're not going to get this from the elites on the left side of the aisle, is compared to what? I mean, we've got plenty of minted Ivy League scholars in the Obama administration, particularly among their economic advisors who make up what I call an Ivy League of economic doom. These are the creme de la creme from Princeton and Berkeley and the University of Chicago, and for all their smarts, they have run this country into the ground. And so which would you prefer? I really don't care where Rick Perry went to school. And I think it's more telling that there's a huge amount of double standards with regard to the liberal media's curiosity about the college transcripts of Republicans versus Democrats like the ones in the White House now.
It's interesting you should mention the transcripts because the Huffington Post had a report earlier this month that said that a source in Texas had passed Perry's transcripts from his years at Texas A&M to the Huffington Post and recited that he got mostly C's, history a C, Shakespeare a D, econ a D, gym a C, veterinary anatomy a D, organic chem an F, and he got 2 A's, world military systems and improv of learning. He got an A. So now we know that he wasn't a very good student at Texas A&M, and what does this tell us, Michelle?
Well, I think it tells us more about the double standards of the media than anything else. We certainly haven't gotten, after 4 or 5 years of Obama gaffes aplenty, any kind of is Obama dumb from the Politico. I mean, this is a man who cannot pronounce Corman correctly, who travels incessantly with his teleprompter, who said that there were 57 states, who couldn't remember what year it was just a couple of months ago when he was in England. It goes on and on and on. My friend Ed Morrissey at Hot Air has been chronicling these Obama-isms for years now, and you don't get these kind of compilations from the liberal media. But this is all a distraction, and I think there is a much more important question, particularly to grassroots conservatives. And the question is not whether Rick Perry is dumb. The guy's got plenty of political savvy to have gotten elected for as many years as he did, given the serious doubts that grassroots conservatives and libertarians have about whether he's the real deal. And that is the question that we should be asking, never mind what Politico is chewing and chin-stroking about today or tomorrow or the next week.
Well, let me ask you this, though, Michelle.
Is Rick Perry the real deal?
And I know you've got some issues with him that you've recounted on your blog. But I want to ask you this. Does it matter? Should it matter if somebody's done? Because, you know, yes, there have been partisan attacks, no question. I mean, it does usually seem to focus on the Republicans as Michelle Bachmann dumb. They've talked about how, you know, her being on the House Intelligence Committee is a contradiction in terms. And they anonymously source Republicans asking that question. Now they're asking this about Rick Perry. We saw it with Sarah Palin. But is it unfair just because it's coming from, you know, some in the mainstream media? I mean, there were questions about the number of colleges Sarah Palin, you know, attended. There were questions about, you know, Perry's academic transcript and so on. Does it make it illegitimate just because of who's asking it?
Well, I think that it does in a way, because it brings with it a set of assumptions that are incorrect, I believe, when we're evaluating these candidates. I think that there is an elitist bigotry about the Republican Party. There always has been for decades and decades, and we can't allow the left side of the aisle and those who pose as objective, neutral journalists to frame the quality and the credentials of our candidates. I don't measure it on their college transcripts. I don't measure it on how much they may have paid to go to some Ivy League minted school. And again, you come to the double standards, because you can have the smartest Ivy League professors around, including the constitutional law professor who's sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now. But it doesn't mean anything if they don't have principles, if they don't have a commitment to the Constitution that they teach and warp to their liberal students, and if they don't have a sense of integrity and bedrock principles. And I think that for grassroots conservatives who are judging these GOP primary candidates, it's far more important than what grades they got, or whether some Washington journalists think they're smart enough. You know, this is the funny thing about journalism and who qualifies as smart as Republicans. The only Republicans that these liberal media people think are smart are the ones who are trashing conservatives and getting their pictures taken in Vogue magazine by Annie Leibovitz.
Michelle, it's always interesting listening to you. Thank you for being here.
You bet. Take care, Megan.
Michelle